I'd like to call the meeting of June 6, 2022 of the Measure U Citizens Oversight Committee meeting to order. John Paul, roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. Committee Member Garwin,
Here.
Committee Member Clark. Here. Committee Member Temez.
Here.
Committee Member Chenault.
Here.
Vice Chair is absent. Chairwoman Cosmo.
Here.
All members are present with the exception of Vice Chair.
Pledge of Allegiance. Holly, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And this is our flag.
Great.
Today.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Communications from the public. Anyone who wishes to address the Oversight Committee regarding items listed on the agenda and not on the agenda may do so at this time. Comments are temporarily limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name when the chairperson calls for public comment. When you are recognized, you may proceed with your comments. The Oversight Committee is prohibited from taking action or discussing any item not appearing on the agenda. A member of the Oversight Committee itself may take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. John Paul, do we have any in-person comments, e-comments, Zoom, or telephone comments?
Thank you, Chair. We have no registered comments. However, we do have a participant on Zoom. So if there's anyone on the Zoom chat that would like to speak during public comment, now is the time to speak. So if you'd like to speak, raise your hand and I will unmute you and we'll give you just a moment. Seeing none, Chair, there's no registered public comment.
Okay, thank you. Discussion and action items 5A, discussion of fiscal year 2022-23 Measure U operating budget, staff report 22-241, Chief Booth / Acting City Manager. Take it away, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Oversight Committee. I'll do a presentation, give you a little background initially, and then we'll go into both departments regarding the budget for 22-23. First slide. All right, the Citizens Oversight Committee was established to independently review and comment on the Measure U expenditure plan for enhancing public safety services within the city. Prior to City Council's consideration and adoption of the Measure U expenditure plan. The Citizens Oversight Committee shall review the expenditure plan to ensure Measure U tax proceeds are used exclusively to pay for costs associated with Citizens Oversight Committee, the independent audit, and funding police protection and crime suppression services, fire protection and suppression services, and 911 paramedic services within the city. The Citizens Oversight Committee shall meet at least twice each calendar year and more frequently if necessary to discharge the responsibilities of the committee. I just wanted to cover the resolution 4703 and 4731. I know we've discussed this in the past, but it's good just so we're aware of what the funding is supposed to be used for with the Measure U tax proceeds. The proceeds of the tax may be expended on any and all regular special expenses incurred for the operation and the provision of public safety services within the city and in response to mutual and automatic aid agreements, including but not limited to wages, benefits, and deferred compensation for police and fire personnel, and the prorated shares such costs for other city personnel that support police and fire services within the city. The purchase, operation, and maintenance of vehicles and equipment, including repairs, fuel, and maintenance, operation, maintenance, repair, and retrofitting of existing property, buildings, improvements, and other facilities necessary for police or fire purposes, risk management and legal services in defense of claims and legal actions against the city and public safety personnel, training, licensing, and certification of police and fire personnel, and for utilizing contractors, subcontractors, consultants, and professional services directly related to enhancing police and fire services. that each fiscal year, the tax proceeds shall be allocated 2/3 to the City of Hemet Police Department and 1/3 to the City of Hemet Fire Department. Excellent. I wanted to give you just the ending fund balance for 21-22 this fiscal year, so you get a better understanding as we present for the following fiscal year budget. If you look on the first column that you see there, there's 4 columns. Obviously, we describe each column next to the first column. And then the last 2 columns that you see to the very right, the first one of those will be police and the second will be the fire department. So our beginning fund balance on 7/1 of 2021 was 16,194,262, and 9.7 million was on the police fund balance, and 6.4 was on the fire department's fund balance. Measure U revenue for police includes mid-year was 8.8 million. Measure U revenue fire was 4.4 million. So our total revenues were 13.2. Our amended expenditure for budget was 10.6 for police department, and amended expenditure for fire was 8.1. So that was after the amendments for the year, as the proceeds came in, we're at 18.735, 724. And Lorena, if I'm missing anything, you go ahead, jump in, you can stop me at any time. So our ending fund balance as of 6/30/2022 will be 10.6 million. And the last row on the bottom is a fund balance breakdown, so you have a better understanding. Because there's always I keep hearing just some confusing what we have going on for our 20% reserve requirement. On the second to the first column on the very right side, it's 1.593318. That's million, and that's on the police department side reserve, and fire department is 538,389, and that comprises the Measure U 20% reserve. The unassigned fund balance as of ending 6/30 of 2022, this fiscal year, on the police side, it will be 6,373,274. On the fire side, it'll be 2,153,557. Now, this is the fund balance that we're always talking about. In the past is one-time funds that we spent on certain equipment or personnel. Well, actually, equipment. I'm sorry. Next slide.
Chief.
Yeah.
The only thing I just want to remind everyone is that ending fund balance of 10.6 million is preliminary at year end. It's assuming we collect 100% of the revenues and we expend 100% of that budgeted expenditures. A lot of times with police and fire, what happens is they'll have projects that they've gotten approved by council, but they can't complete them by June 30th. So even though they don't spend them in that year, they will be rolled into the next year.
A big example was when we were doing the PSEC radio project. It just took over 2 years, so you see this higher fund balance in there. And as we go through each budget, you will see where we're projecting where we will be at the end of this fiscal year. On the proposed fiscal year 22-23 Measure U budget, the proposed budget was 15 million for Measure U, as revenues coming in 2/3 to the City of Hemet Police Department, which the police department received 10 million, and 1/3 to the City of Hemet Fire Department, which was 5 million. And that's this upcoming budget. So Measure U Oversight Committee recommendation: review the proposed expenditure plan for enhancing public safety services with the city for fiscal year 22-23, and provide comment on Measure U expenditure plan prior to City Council's consideration and adoption of the Measure U expenditure plan for fiscal year 22-23 as stated in Ordinance 1918. Okay, for the Hemet Police Department, I'm going to put my other hat on. Okay, City Council, as you know, we adopted a strategic plan, and our 4 goals are quality of life, economic opportunity, community engagement, partnering and collaboration, and organizational effectiveness. What we keep in mind when as we move forward with our budgets and our programs within our departments. Okay, for the police department proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23, and just keep in mind, this is our whole budget. We want you to get a better perspective of what the totality of our budget and what our expenditures will be. So 72% of the general fund is split between fire and police, the same as 2/3 and 1/3. So as you see, the 64% in the pie, that's my part, or the police department's part of the 72%. So it is it stayed there. So it's 64%. If you imagine that whole pie, my whole budget of 36 million, that comprises 64% of the total. So I have on my general fund 23,212,000. Measure U 9,993,000. Measure U fund balance, I'm using 1.8 million. CFD is $660,000. And ARPA, that's that American Response Program Act. That's 340,000. So my total budget is $36,005,500. And I use that total amount to program those 9 programs that used to be 14 last year. And why it's condensed into 9 is I've noticed this first year, and that's the whole thing, is building foundation regarding the program budget, because we don't have a foundation laid yet. So it's understanding what we spend in so many different programs. We had a couple programs like my internal affairs. I put that in administration, and my PAC team, which is our post accountability and corrections team, compliance team. I put that in our investigations because that's supervised by that. So we went from 14 programs down to 9. There's a couple other programs. We had 1 person in it. There's a program I had that didn't have any bodies in it. So it's easier just to combine whoever oversees that program. So we went from 14 programs to 9 programs, and funding those 9 programs is 36 million. Those programs that I condensed, they're still there, but they're just in the 9 programs. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you get a better idea. This is how I calculate and it is specifically measure you and assign it to specific individuals, so I get an accurate count. This is just internally how we see that I'm not spending more than I'm allotted with Measure U. So I do it with some of the personnel, and as you see, Measure U funded positions: 1 police captain, 1 police lieutenant, 3 police sergeants, 19 police officers, 1 public media officer, 1 support services manager, 5 community service officers, a property and evidence tech, 1 public safety dispatcher, 3 records specialists, and 1 public safety operator. And I put the 21-22 kind of so you could get an idea. This is what we put out there last year when I met with the Oversight Committee. So as you see the programs, I highlighted administration, the patrol, rocks, and traffic. The second column was our fiscal year 2020 and 2021. And the third column is what I added that year. And that the first one in administration, that was a public media officer. Under patrol, I added those 4 CSOs. Under rocks, I added that corporal and officer, and I added the 2 motors to traffic. And that's to meet my programs and my objectives, which is listed on the 4th column. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where we'll now see the added positions with the sworn positions as well as our non-sworn. So our projected fiscal year 22-23 sworn staff. If you go down the list, when we hit corporal, which is the 5th line down, police corporal, we're adding 1 more corporal, and that's moving from fiscal year 21-22 with 1 addition from 6 to 7 corporals. That corporal is going to supervise our traffic bureau, so we have traffic 7 days a week. Our police investigator, we increased that by 2. We had 1 last year. In this upcoming fiscal year, we'll have 3 police investigators. What's important about that investigator is more of a long-term assignment, and we notice we lose a lot of experience after every 5 years. People just they're getting the knowledge of what they're doing in that position. So this is extending that position. It's almost like a promotion, but you gain that knowledge and you hold on to that knowledge, which is very necessary in critical investigations. Police officer, we're adding one more police officer for the streets. That'll give us 82. So we went from 78 to 82. And also so better understanding, as we're adding those investigators, that becomes two added police officers for patrol. Next slide. Projected professional staff positions. This one I just changed my management assistant to management analyst, so it's just a flop due to the different duties that are assigned. Next slide. Professional staff continued. The fourth line down, dispatch supervisor, we're adding 2 dispatch supervisors. This is for better service for community oversight, accountability within our dispatch center. With this, we see that we're moving towards our EMD, emergency medical dispatching. This will assist with that and for the future. We are adding 2 more public safety office specialists in our records department, and 1 investigator was a temporary part-time. That's we're trying to do things that are low-level crimes but still need investigation that could be handled by a part-time person, and our investigators could handle the sensitive, more high-profile investigations. So we're going from 39.3 to 44.3, and the 0.3, as you see that, that's our part-time dispatchers that are listed that we have currently. Next slide. Metro U major projects and tech upgrades. And I'd like to bring some history, what we've done and what we're moving forward. So the completed project for technology upgrades. Last year, we completed, or we entered into a service agreement with Flock. It's a great technology tool. Those are our automatic license plate readers throughout the city. Well, we doubled it this year. As you see, future projects, we expanded the Flock. Now we have 40. And we also have what they call a Raven, which detects gunfire throughout the city. So that's being installed at this time right now. So that's a benefit to us on sending resources out to certain crimes. That's just beneficial with technology. We completed phase 1 and phase 2 of our microwave project and radio project. That was completed in June of 2021. We went live in June 2021 with our Axon BWC tasers, that's body worn cameras, and our Taser 7. We did upgrade it this year. This year we had overcosted some of the pricing, so we added every time someone turns their lights on, there's a trigger where the body cameras automatically turn on. And so that's anybody within 25 yards. So not only when someone pulls the taser, as they do a traffic stop or pull up to the scene, they're not having to worry about their cameras or turning their cameras on due to safety issues. They automatically come on. So that's an upgrade that we just recently done. We completed a new computer-aided dispatch, which is our new CAD system and our records management system. That's our Mark 43. And completion of phase 2, which are our radio, I mentioned that already. And then our trauma intervention program that we share with the fire department. So the future technology upgrades, as I mentioned, and this is something I've been working on since last year. Obviously, we expanded ROCs, as I mentioned, but we still need to go 7 days a week. We're expanding our traffic enforcement. We added bodies this year. As we move forward with the corporal, this year we should be 7 days a week. Expand community engagement, just an objective that I want to do, better communication, engagement with the city, with our business crime prevention program, our community program, with just looking through people's different lenses. So I'm putting a CPEG program together is, it's a group of individuals, as I mentioned last time, that I'll sit down with on a monthly basis and get input. It's almost like, I don't want to call it oversight committee, but it does the same purpose of just hearing what issues are out in the community and how we could better deal with that. Expand flock, I mentioned that, and business crime prevention program with our rocks. We really need to do a better job. And I'm sure we all see it as we drive down our major thoroughfares, to bring in our business partners and really find out what are those issues that they're dealing with and how we can assist them to fix the blight and unnecessary issues that we have out there in the public's view. Next slide. This is just a cost, as you see, Metro U, how we added different funds that are provided to us. So Metro U, 2 public safety office specialists, and there's totals. Our general fund, we reclassed the management assistant to management analyst for duties. Added 1 police officer, 2 police investigators, 2 dispatcher supervisors, and 1 temporary part-time investigator. 1 CFD corporal was added, and 10 police cadets off our ARPA funding. And I think I mentioned last year with the ROCKS team, we were discussing 20 part-time maintenance aides. Obviously, that's been a challenge for the police department, very difficult hiring people. I think bringing on these cadets, we have a bunch of explorers that are starting to go to college, which I encourage developing that way. Go to college. After you're done, come back. Hopefully we'll have a job for you if you want a job in law enforcement. But at the same time, if we have part-time cadets as they're going to school, we can work around their time and they can work with our ROCKS team. And these individuals will be driving up and down Florida Avenue, dealing with those mattresses that are thrown out in the street, dealing with graffiti removal and things like that. The next slide. These are some of the funding that we're using for equipment for Metro U, range treatment facility revitalization, 2 investigation vehicles, equipped investigators, and 1 CRTF vehicle. That's our cannabis regulation task force. We have 1 individual assigned to that. It's the central area of Riverside County, but they handle all Riverside County. There's different city municipalities that have an investigator on that team, and they handle all the illegal cannabis sales to include legalized sales. They do all the checking, make sure that licensing and they're compliant to their city ordinance. Measure U fund balance is going to be used for PD, the fire department parking lot rehabilitation and safety measures. I put that in because we had an incident at station number 1 this weekend that could have went terribly wrong. That somebody was able to get through our fence, our secured area, which is really not as secure as we hope, but this should fix that and cause some damage to vehicles, and lucky not to anybody else that was there. PD Administration Strategic Planning Center, that's all technology upgrades, better for hotspot policing, be more strategic in how we develop our resources and push those resources out. Also public safety server room, fire suppression, something that we need to do and should have done a long time ago, but as funding permits, it's very difficult to do that. That's a dry fire suppression for all the equipment. We have millions of dollars we've invested with our radio system and other systems that this is a necessary project. Our general fund, we'll purchase 1 prisoner transport van, 6 patrol vehicles, and 1 BMW motorcycle from general fund. And I'm sorry, all the costing is on the right-hand side for each funding source that we're using. So for the Measure U on the equipment is 390,000. Measure U fund balance, that's that balance I spoke to you earlier, 1.8 million. And keep in mind that 1.8 million is going to take away from our projected 6 million and some change that we have there. So we should be around 5 million or high 4s with the fund balance. So we are spending that fund balance. And general fund was 615,000. And then that being said, I'm gonna hand it over to Chief Sal and Battalion Chief. Well,
Can I get a question first?
sure.
Adding the officers, but where are we at right now? We've seen in the media, public media lately, we've had 3 retirements.
Yeah, we're at 3 retirements, so that'll bring me back down to 71. I have 8 people on background at this point. In fact, I could have a chief's interview next week. So we're moving forward, but that's kind of where we see ourselves always taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and it hurts. But I think as we move forward with the completion of our MOU that our personnel received, that we will move forward much quicker than we have in the past. And as I mentioned last time too, we're starting to see a lot of lateral movement from different counties like LA County coming over here. So, and that's everywhere in Riverside County, we're seeing that. So, but those are kind of what I'm dealing with when it comes to terms of retirements. A lot of movement going on right now, and because I'm recruiting or promoting from captain, lieutenant, sergeant, all the way down. So there's a lot of movement going on internally for the police department. But yeah, that's always a concern. You know, we planned that, we knew it was coming, and we have these people in background. It's just that process. So, and we're expediting our backgrounds just like everyone else. So, but we're not lowering our standards. That's the good thing.
If you pick one up that needs to go to the academy, what is that at now? 6 months?
6 months, and that's the funny thing. And I think I mentioned this once before. The academy probably, since I've gone, it's 6 months and 2 weeks, which this was 26 years ago. And then our training program is 6 months and or 4.5 months, and that never changed. But yet we're dealing with so much more technology, so much more different laws and information that you have to do. But we got to take our time and invest in our people. So sometimes our training program is extended. So there's 2 ways of extending it. Obviously, we focus on any type of issues that are officer safety issues. If they are, we try to address it initially. But at one point, you know, during the training program, if they're not responding appropriately, you got to cut your losses. But you know, as my goal is, and I mentioned this before, is I want to build that twofold with our community service officers that do almost the same thing and really recruit from within there. So as we bring people on, we push that CSO spot to hopefully be able to choose and recruit from there as well. And what helps them is they know our system. They know how to file reports. They know the city and the layout, because as you know, starting out, it's just a wild ride. It's the concentration, the stress, and the training program definitely is not as stressful. It's a learning environment nowadays, but it's still a lot to learn and a lot of information. And I mentioned this before too. I don't think I could pass the program today if I had to start all over again. It's a lot of work, a lot of things you have to do.
So your FTO program's up over 4 months?
Yeah, it's 4.5 months. So what we do each phase in 1 month. You could redo a whole phase, or you could do a 2-week extension. Now, at one point through each phase, you got to make that determination. You know, if they're continuing to move forward, it's great. Now, that's for an entry level. For laterals, we could get them through within 2 weeks. And Post doesn't recommend that. There's no recommendation that you have to put them in a program, but we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't teach them our forms, the way we do things, because it's all different. Every city is different, and we got to make sure that they're safe. I mean, we're investing our time and the liability of the city too.
Yep.
So we do a minimum of 2 weeks. But most of laterals come in and they get it, and we're able to successfully put them on they're on their own in 2 months. So not too bad. But we've had entry level, which is straight out of the academy, go longer than 6 months. And those that just need a little bit you know, everyone learns at a different curve and they give them just a couple more weeks in each phase and we're usually successful. So that's kind of where we're at. We have three entry levels trainees in the academy right now. They should be graduating in, I think, 2 months. So they'll be starting that TO program and they're doing great, which we're fortunate. One was an explorer here that became a CSO and I think she's going to do fantastic. So good opportunities.
You know, the training's come a long way, both sides of the table. And
Trust me, sometimes I try to figure things out and I just have to give up and ask them because, you know, all the things that they have to do that I don't no longer do, you know, yeah.
my academy was only 12 weeks. I think my FTO was 7.
It's changed. I heard someone used to train first and they then get sent to the academy and they come back and do another thing and stuff.
But Oregon does a lot of.
All right, no more questions. We'll continue with Fire Chief Sell and Battalion Chief Lloyd.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, everyone. Battalion Chief Lloyd is passing out some additional handouts, so you have some tangible copies of one. One of these documents is an information fact sheet. That's something new that we did created at the fire department. It's kind of cool. It's just a one-pager that lets you see our statistics, some data, our apparatus, and so that can be really helpful for you as well. And then the other one is essentially a copy of the PowerPoint presentation on the fire side with a couple of corrections. So Chief Lloyd's going to assist in going through the PowerPoint, and then we'll kind of make note of a couple of things that that were corrected that were maybe on your original email. Okay. So much like the police department and much like we've talked about here before, everything that we do, we make sure that we're looking at the city's strategic plan and make sure that that our goals align with those of the council and the community. So all of our moves definitely reflect that. And Chief Lloyd, just for correction, this is the new one. So I'm gonna let Chief Lloyd discuss this this graph because I know there might have been a question on this particular slide and our pie.
Right. We had our numbers didn't quite update and we ended up finding out we had there was 110% in there. That was my error in that. We know our employees give 110%, but the money probably
The money
doesn't quite go there. I was hoping, but you know, it wasn't quite there. So we did I reformatted it and got it. So for the total for budget, our proposed budget for the FY 22-23 is 19,395,400 with 11.6 million coming out of general fund. That's 60% in that, with 4.9 million or 26% coming out of Measure U, 2% out of Measure U fund balance, and at 400,000 CFD Community Facilities District at 2% with 329,100, $2 million in ARPA funds, and then our AMR penalty fees of 70,000, which is giving you at a 0% or a less than 1%. These all were set to improve the 3 bureaus and the administrative support as Chief Poos did in consolidating within the programs. Chief Sell did as well as far as establishing the 3 bureaus of fire operations and emergency services, fire prevention, all hazards, and support services.
Thank you.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
What creates an AMR penalty fee?
The AMR penalty fees are set by contract. They have I believe it's a 9-minute response time from call received to arrive at scene. When they are not, then they get charged a penalty. And so then those penalties go back to the cities and the areas to enhance the EMS program. So it's a program run by REMSA. REMSA kind of controls it all, and then, but they are specific or special fees designed for EMS enhancements only.
Thanks.
And they have gone up quite a bit, you know, over the last, especially 18 months due to the pandemic and some other issues. So, thank you for that. So as far as on this slide, we can see that we also always strive to seek other revenue sources in terms of grants. And so you can see the State Homeland Security Grant, County Hazardous Operations Group, which we refer to as the CHOG, and also CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. So $67,000 and $9,801 respectively. A part-time administrative volunteer assists with cost recovery and fire prevention. And she actually happens to be the mother of one of our fire captains, Laura Excel. So her name is Ray Thompson. She's great. Thank goodness for her. We'll take anybody. So she's assisting with weed abatement and some of the other things. But she's done a great job in working for Chief Lloyd as well with fire prevention. Some of that capacity he needs in terms of research and discovery. So this slide, very similar to what Chief Houst has done on the PD side as far as just, you know, how it looks. But you can see starting with Fire Chief and then moving down, we'll go to the far right column and look at some of the changes to fiscal year 22-23 proposed. So Fire Chief is remaining the same. Deputy Chief, that's going to be a new position, which is an incredibly needed position for the fire department. I actually did a comprehensive report that was given to the city manager, and council has seen that as well. And it highlights the fact that out of our comparable cities, that we are the busiest fire department and have the least amount of staff, right? And so, and when I say staff in this particular circumstance, I'm referring to our command staff capacity. So the way we operated once I took the position here, it was Fire Chief, and another graph is going to illustrate this a little bit better in terms of our organizational chart. But it was a Fire Chief and 3 battalion chiefs that are on shift work. So you can imagine that that's very challenging when you're trying to, you know, run an organization that's based on people that, you know, may or may not work weekdays for 3 weeks out of 4, right? That's just one easy example, right? So in any case, a lot of things that the needs of the city and the citizens are certainly going to get neglected with that sort of lack of capacity. So I'm really happy to say that we're able to address that in this upcoming fiscal year with the addition of a deputy chief. That's basically a true number 2 position on an organizational chart. So that person is also an at-will position, and that works a 40-hour work week. So certainly when I'm not able to attend a meeting or anything like that, we can now divide and conquer, where before, you know, I'm kind of we can use all sorts of different analogies. One man army in an ass kicking contest, or, you know, right, or whatever. So it's going to be a much needed position. Moving down to Fire Battalion Chief, that's going to remain at 3. Fire Captain is going to remain at 15. Fire Engineer is remaining at 15. Firefighter Paramedic, that's now going to go to 18. So we have requested 3 new firefighter paramedic FTEs. The good news about this is it's really, you know, the purpose is to, you know, stop running that fund balance on the squad in particular, right? You know, that Measure U fund balance, and it's to actually help reduce overtime, right? And so by adding those FTEs and by having that, you know, permanent staffing on the squad, that's going to help us to do that with adding those 3 FTEs and incrementally trying to grow the fire department. Fire prevention officer is going to go from 1 to 2. So that's something that we did not have either before I became chief. And I'll just be blunt. There was really no fire prevention in the city other than contract services by CSG, who does a really good job at what they do, but they really focused on new construction, right? And so we have what's called SB 1205 state mandated inspections that haven't been done in years. Let's just ask the city of Oakland how they felt after the ghost ship fire, right? You know, and they killed, you know, 12+ people in Oakland without any kind of falling behind in fire prevention. So it puts the city and certainly everybody here in a lot of, liability, right? And so to reduce liability, this is one of the big things that we focused on, that we saw as a command staff that certainly need to be addressed. And I'm really happy to report that our fire prevention officer, Natalie Stenikin, has done an outstanding job of creating a database that didn't even exist and identifying all of our building our businesses within the community, and also actually creating forms that we didn't have before. So that's going to be something that as we continue to phase in the fire prevention program, adding this second prevention officer is now going to be able to go out and conduct these inspections. So you can see the number on the bottom. The total, the proposed is going to 55, which is great, because again, the staffing of the fire department has been down. And when we're talking about a city that has 90,000 plus people and that runs 18,000 calls a year, you won't find this anywhere, I could tell you. Thank you.
You have any current openings right now? Or is replacing retirements or anything like that?
So much like Chief Poost, we have retirements that we have to anticipate. We have 3 current vacancies in the firefighter paramedic rank. That actually, we have 3 candidates that are in the background process right now as we speak. So in theory, we would be flush with them, but then guess what? We just had a promotional exam. So we have vacancies already next week, yeah. So, but the good news is that with the cooperation of staff and everybody else, we also have another new position called firefighter paramedic trainee, which is now going to cast a wider net. So it's going to enable folks that have a paramedic license, but don't have a fire academy to actually now apply. And we're going to, in a collaborative effort between us and Moreno Valley Fire College, they're going to be able to go to the fire academy and get paid. And it's going to be a reduced amount of money, right, until completion of the academy, at which time then they'll become a firefighter paramedic recruit. And then basically they'll be a probationary employee at that point. But, we're already hearing it hasn't even been released yet. And just by our crews, going out there on the streets, and especially a lot of these AMR paramedics that would love to be firefighters, but frankly, they can't afford to go to the academy, especially if they have a family. This is going to now, give those folks an opportunity and give us another arena to actually capture more people.
Which is pretty amazing. It hasn't been done here.
Yeah.
Since I started. So he's taken another avenue to have that opportunity to bring more people on, which is necessary.
And then I'll ask you the question I didn't ask him, but so all these numbers from last year, regardless of retirees, this was how many positions you had. So you're actually increasing these numbers regardless of retirees. You're not like, oh,
Correct.
3 people retired here, so now we're
Correct.
okay.
Like
That's
literally growing the department. Yeah.
Yeah, those are positions
Yes.
that we have available. And
Not people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Next slide.
Oh, Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to say I certainly support the deputy chief
Oh, well,
position.
thank you.
Because I know that you didn't have much command staff when you first came. If any. And,
I was like, whoa.
and previously, I know that there was deputy chief
Yeah.
positions here. I knew 2 of them.
Yeah.
Actually, I had lunch with them 2 months ago, and we have retiree luncheons from
Oh, wow.
employees here. So, I'm glad to see, I hope that it will be reinstituted.
Yeah. I hope so too. So far the messaging that we've heard from council has been very positive. And so, we're going to remain positive on that as well.
And of course, both police and fire, I'm, really happy to see increased safety
Mhm.
and non-safety too.
Oh, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and so, and I'm glad you brought that up. If we can go to that, did we talk about the, oh, no, not yet. So the administrative staff, that we're going to get into some of that. So, emergency services coordinator. We have a guy that's doing an outstanding job, and he's somebody that we were able to actually put through a really good, thorough assessment center process that we started here when I became the fire chief. And it's really set the stage for what we're doing now with all of our hiring. And it's just a really effective way to, put the candidates through a battery of different things. And so Jake Regine is his name, and he's already been proactive with our community and getting out there and introducing himself and letting it be known to the community that CERT is going to be right around the corner starting this summer. So that's going to be one big thing that's on his docket. So pretty exciting. And then he has the emergency operation plan that needs to be updated. So he's going to be quite busy for, the foreseeable future. Another great thing that he adds, along with Natalie Stenikin, we had a recent second alarm fire, which means basically that that's an all hands on deck. So every unit in Hemet was there. And aside from Hemet, we also had to have the help from the county and from Saboba. So we had 5 additional engines from Riverside County Fire, and we had the ladder truck from Saboba. So I was actually coming into work when it happened. So I was able to go to the command post. Chief Lloyd happened to, be coming into work for the DRC meeting. So he was able to come, and we were able to show up and add some, frankly, some help at the command post for, Chief Myshak, who normally, and he's looking around like, holy cow, I'm not used to having people, and I was able to make a phone call to our ESC, who was able to come down in a utility now with water and provide rehab for not only for the firefighters, but we ended up having 19 displaced occupants, a combination of adult and children. So now the fire department is handing out water, assisting them with the American Red Cross. PD is there making sure that folks are safe and not getting into their apartment. So it was a really good collaborative effort to see that, And so I'm really kind of proud that those are things that we're able to kind of do now, just having a couple extra people,
From my house, that was a very quick, very scary call that came up. Because I didn't hear any sirens, and I just happened to be out and look that way, and that came up so quick.
Yeah. Well, and just to give you a little bit of background, so that call actually came in as a vehicle fire. And so the captain on engine 1 did a great job, and based on his experience, he saw this amount of smoke and knew that was not just a car fire. So he actually upgraded en route to a structure fire response, which now brought in everybody, right? And so that was really beneficial. But when they pulled up on scene, they actually had 2 fully involved vehicles. The carport was already on fire, and it was extending into the apartment complex. So they had their hands full. Yeah.
What's the difference between emergency services coordinator and EMS coordinator?
So EMS coordinator, that refers to our nurse educator who helps train our paramedics every month. And that's considered that's the 0.5 because it's a part-time position, and that's on a contract. So that's Melissa Schmidt. And so she's been with us now. Chief Lloyd, you know how she's been here a few years at least. Yeah. 3 years. So she basically, paramedics and EMTs are required to keep up their state licenses. And part of that is through CE, continuing education hours, and our EMS coordinator makes sure that they get the you're in the profession, so but gets the classes that they need anytime that there's a new medication, a new policy and procedure, anything with REMSA, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Administrative assistant, so 1, and that's Pam Hainig. Office specialist, we were able to add a new person, and that's Rianne Robnett, and she's currently part-time, but we're going to be increasing her to full-time. So again, this is just another, we all have problems with, folks not answering phones and, not being attended to everything that we're trying to do in the fire department. Another big thing that we do is obviously on the inspection side, right? So we want to make sure that we have folks that are there. Rianne, just even though she's part-time right now, she actually is doing, kind of the brunt of working with CSG, because Pam is so busy just, being the only, true full-time admin person right now. She's dealing with all 3 battalion chiefs, all 15 captains, me. It's a lot, right? And you can imagine how that's a lot of moving parts. So just increasing Rianne from part-time to full-time is going to be a big deal, and certainly help out with us being able to kind of meet the needs of the community.
Requirement are very needy.
Oh, here we go. He's been quiet the whole time. He's been quiet.
City manager.
Yeah, okay. He's been quiet the whole time. And then this is another position that we're excited about. This is a civilian, non-sworn management analyst position. So this is going to be somebody that's able to, you know, frankly, be our number cruncher, right? Always be able to look at our budget, look at our, make sure that staff reports are done. Make sure that we're working with, you know, finance and the folks over here at City Hall. And so that's a pretty exciting position to really kind of making sure that we're just always on top of it, you know, so instead of, you know, any sort of lapse in anything that we're doing, you know, we will have that steady person that's going to be staffing that role, you know, and working hand in hand with our admin folks as well. So really that management analyst and the deputy chief that we were talking about earlier are going to be two game-changing positions for the fire department.
And if I could add,
Yeah.
because we have one on our team, but it's gonna be beneficial as we move forward with grants.
Mhm.
Because some of these grants that we have, they could be grants from the previous year, but there's fund balance that we have to use and there's specific grants.
Mhm.
And as you get more grants, it's like a juggling just to make sure that we're using and spending our grants and accountability. So definitely needed through our discussions. And it's something that we definitely need a long time ago. So.
Can I ask, when you're talking about going from part-time to full-time,
Uh-huh.
are you talking about adding days or hours?
Hours.
Okay, so
Yes.
they're there every day,
Correct.
but you're just going from like 4 hours to 8 hours?
Right,
Okay,
right.
all right.
Yep. Okay, so summary of the fiscal year 22-23 personnel requests. So all those that we just discussed are actually general fund. So so the good news is that partially because of Measure U being used for tangible items like fire engine purchases and our upcoming training center, which is actually in the handout. We were able to work with finance on determining, you know, that we had some money to actually make these recommendations. So it's really a nice balance of bringing these positions, utilizing general fund money, right? And then knowing that the Measure U dollars have been spent on some other tangible items that were really sorely needed, like the fire engines that we're going to talk about, like the training center. There are people that are tied to Measure U. But frankly, you know, it's our goal to try to kind of continue to move forward and really, you know, so again, public safety, it's always our goal to be cost neutral. We don't make money, as we know, as we, you know, but we can actually add to the general fund. I'm confident that a lot of these things that have happened in years in terms of these inspections that we're going to be doing and cost recovery, they're going to help, right? And so we're always going to come, with solutions, not just take. So just know that that's where we're coming from as well.
Is this salary and benefits, this package?
Yes, yes. And in fact, some of these, they are a little on the high side. But we were working with finance on some of these numbers, you know, just to make sure that we had the most accurate numbers that we can make these recommendations on.
And it is a top full burden rate, so in all these positions.
And you have anything, Lorena, on that as far as some of those?
We always budget new positions at mid-step to give the department some negotiating power when they're bringing someone new in. If they don't have experience, you can start them at an entry level. But if you have someone with experience, you definitely don't want to turn them away because we didn't budget enough. So we always budget them at mid-step. I think the one that stands out probably more is the deputy chief. That is a sworn position. And the PERS rates for sworn personnel are much higher than they are for miscellaneous. So that's why it looks that high, but definitely very important to include all the cost in there.
Yeah. And as we go down, so we can see on the right, the cost of these positions, starting from fire deputy chief to management analyst, to increasing part-time to full-time office specialist, the 3 new firefighter paramedics, the one additional fire prevention officer, and peak demand overtime. So that $245,000, just to be clear, is actually, that's the balance of what was left over in our general fund projected revenue. Okay, so what we're doing is we're saying we're keeping that as an account for additional peak demand overtime. But again, the goal of hiring the 3 new firefighter paramedic trainees is to try to reduce that. So it's kind of a two-tiered approach to that. This slide, it shows some additional funding sources that starting with ARPA. So much like other departments of the city and the police department, fire station upgrades. So we're going to be able to address critical issues. We have aging fire stations. That second bullet point, replace antiquated station alerting systems. And this is not just, like literally when I left Oversight County over 20 years ago and now coming back. It's like a time machine. It's like hot tub time machine, it's like, what the heck? So like the station tones, they're still here when I left over 20 years ago, right? And I went and worked for Long Beach and where they have a whole new station alerting system. And so the good news is that we're going to address that here now. And so when our folks get up in the middle of the night, they're not going to like hit the wall, out of like, fright because the alarm goes off so loud. So they're actually called heart saver tones. And so they're also going to help shave off precious seconds because they're a lot more efficient. So dispatch will actually be able to kind of, just push a button. It'll give an alerting into the fire station, and it'll basically be like a, computer generated voice. So then that way that already gets the folks, out of bed or out of whatever they're doing, depending on day or night. And that right there shaves off some precious seconds on our response time. So that's going to be really cool that we're getting that. And you can see that was $2 million in council approved projects. We had a special council meeting on a Friday where they did that, and it's much appreciated. So we're going to be able to do some station remodels and do what we can in terms of. We're going to get the alerting system in all 5 stations. We're also going to be addressing extractors and things like cleaning our PPE. Obviously, firefighters are more prone than any other occupation to, get cancer, right? So we're doing everything that we can. All right.
That wasn't.
We're doing everything we can to reduce, the risk. By just doing preventative stuff. Also, another thing, since we're on that topic, we have brought 2 wellness programs just since I became chief here to the fire department that we're really proud of, and making sure that we're addressing wellness and behavioral health. So certainly we're trying to do what we can to be proactive, right? And on the front side, which reduces workers' comp, which reduces different claims, and it makes our workforce healthier.
And the ARPA funding is the American Response Program Act. That's the federal funding.
Yeah.
Assigned to counties and cities that has to be used prior to 2024.
AMR penalty fees, we talked about that already. And with that, we're actually going to purchase what's called Tablet Command Incident Software. And it's pretty cool. It's kind of using technology now, for something that's going to be make our company officers in the field that much more effective and efficient. So actually just with like an iPad, they'll be able to run their incident. So they can get on a fire and they could actually run their incident. It'll organize it with an organizational chart, and then a battalion chief can arrive on scene. Now they can take over and already see, everything that's been done and use technology. I was used to pen and paper and write this sucker out, so it's kind of cool to see that we're going to be using technology. And again, it's going to make our, and what that does is increases our accountability on scene of our personnel. Now we can track our personnel better. We know where everybody's at, right? We use what's called the incident command system. So we would establish what we call divisions of groups. Everybody has a job. So now the incident commander has all that right there at their fingertips. So it's a really effective tool, and it also helps with span and control issues as well. So if you're kind of in the middle of all this chaos, I always tell people, you want to speak to as few people as possible, right? And so this is one of the ways that technology helps with that.
No more whiteboards.
Yeah, well, and it's.
Well, there's still whiteboards, but this is gonna be another tool besides a whiteboard, yeah.
And it's cloud-based, so whatever changes or additions you make, everybody that's on that fire sees it in real time.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, yeah, so if you're, around the back corner or over a hill on a wildland fire and you mark something, it will go right back to the command post. Everybody sees it all at the same time.
Sounds good.
Internal services savings, that's the mobile radio upgrade program. Like our PD partners, we want to make sure that our communication is always up to speed with the latest technology, and especially that PD and fire can communicate. We've been talking a lot lately in our executive team meetings. We continue to see the rash of active shooter events. And certainly we're not immune from that in Hemet. And, Chief Boost and I know that, not only are we talking about it, but we're already planning things to make sure that we're leading here within the city and teaching all of our city departments kind of, just what to do, right? And how to react. And then also so we can work together on active shooter incidents. So we know how to have what's called our rescue teams. And if we had to go in there and actually extract folks from an active shooter event, making sure that we conduct drills. And so communication, plays a vital part in all that. And so this is a really good slide that Chief Lloyd put together that really helps kind of capture some of the Measure U history. So you can see under personnel, so Measure U funds 3 captains, 8 firefighter paramedics, all 3 battalion chiefs right now are funded via Measure U. Squad staffing to support rising EMS responses, which right now it's overtime, which we understand is not sustainable, and trying to, do something about that, right? And that goes back to the hiring of the 3 firefighter paramedic FTEs. Funded 2 public safety dispatchers and 1 call taker. And so you can see where, again, a goal is for us to have an EMD that's out of our joint PD and fire dispatch. And so certainly we want to continue to work together on that. Increase support personnel hours. So emergency services coordinator to full-time. Increased hours of emergency medical services nurse coordinator to 96 hours per month. And then the part-time office specialist is funded under Measure U. So we were kind of talking about this earlier. One of my biggest observations when I came here was that there were a lot of programs that were kind of frankly scattered, and battalion chiefs had just different programs that were all over the map. And then there were a lot of people that were pointing directly to the fire chief spot. And I knew that what we needed to do was the battalion chiefs, they needed to be empowered to, frankly, be the command staff that they are, regardless of being on shift work. That's all we have, right? Yeah. And so we needed to kind of, make sure that they understood their importance. And so what we created was the 3 bureaus. The Operations and EMS Bureau on the left, in the middle, the Fire Prevention and All Hazard Services, and then the Support Services Bureau. And then what I also did to reduce my span of control and make sure that I can be more effective and leading and managing the department overall, right? And we talk about that bigger picture, that 30,000 foot level where we should be, Chief Boost and I should be at, is, then we gave them subordinate personnel. Right. So, and it wasn't, and I already knew they were busy. It's not because I didn't think they were busy enough. It was because, again, we needed to work on span of control, and now kind of the plan, as you can, think about in prior slides, when we think about the deputy chief, we think about the management analyst. Now, a lot of these things are starting to make sense, right? Now we're bringing that capacity to assist these bureaus that are now in place. So I'm really grateful for the support from the BCs and from everybody, all our floor personnel as well during some of these changes, because change is tough, as you guys know. Thank you, Chief. Go ahead. Okay, so this is another important slide. So this talks about what Measure U has done for our community and for our fire department in terms of capital equipment. So replace aging fire apparatus. So engine one, the brand new nice fire engine at Station 1 was made possible due to Measure U. And then we have 2 additional KME engines that were ordered, and we hope to see them in about a year. But that was also out of Measure U. So you can think about an aging fleet where at the time we did the needs assessment report to council, basically all 5 of our frontline fire engines were already at the point of, needing replacement. Not only as a frontline apparatus, but even as a reserve apparatus because of their age and their mileage. So it's great to see that, within the next 18 months, 3 out of our 5 frontline fire engines are actually going to be newer fire engines. So that's a big deal. Moving on, you can see upgrade VHF radio system. And that establishes a backup system for us. Again, communications being vital to what we do. We were able to purchase 3 utility vehicles, personnel protective equipment. So now that's our turnout gear that we're talking about with that. And also helmets. Adding a 6th dispatch console. So that's meant for our EMD, which is our ongoing process of hiring. And again, through hiring the right folks and offering attractive salary benefit packages, that's going to capture, people that are going to, it's tough, right? It's tough dispatching for PD and fire. So we need to be able to recruit, a special kind of person that's able to handle both of those roles. Okay, end of slide. So thank you very much for listening. Appreciate that.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, since we filed our proposed expenditures for both the fire department and the police department. So right now, if recommendation is to provide input on the report to the city council for the planned expenditures for fiscal year 22-23. That being said, if there's any further questions, we're here to answer.
I had a question going back to police on no, your sworn staff slide.
Where's that? Right.
Maybe one more.
That's the fire. So go back to PD.
Fine.
Oops, sorry. I wish I had a staffing.
Touche. Keep going down. It's that one right there. Okay.
So in 1920, was it because of budget cuts that we've gone
We
down? Because we're
changed-
still lower, we're still like 10 short from what it was a few years ago.
We changed our budget to program-based budgeting, which those were positions that weren't filled. And we didn't state them as frozen, but they were just still on the board. And we were trying to get up to that. That is the confusion part. And as we move forward to the program-based budgeting, we have those positions. So the dark numbers, we had those positions, but we didn't have them filled. In fact, some were just sitting on a board. And as more funding resources came in, we kind of opened them up for personnel. Then as you see in 2021, we changed to program-based budgeting, which 76 positions allotted for PD. And then 21, 22, 78, and we're at 82. And, the last few years, we went from a line item based budget to zero-based budgeting to program-based budgeting. So I hope we stay here for a couple more years at least, because we're building that foundation, so we won't know exactly. We're all touching it. All the directors are getting a feel of how much funding should be in each program. And the good thing is, like I mentioned before, it's a lot more involved but yet we have objectives and goals, which we're able to talk about measurements and what we're doing. And if we need to change our course, we're able to do that the following year. So it'll give us some key points to be able to see and actually measure and say, is this working or not? You know, obviously, we'll change the way we do business. But we're striving towards that number.
Back to the 92.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions? Anybody?
I've got one, and maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. Under the one of the portions of Measure U is that the city's general fund would be 72%.
2%.
I heard numbers though today that we're in the 60s.
That, if you put the two numbers together on both pie charts, so if you could go to slide number 8, JP, please. That's 64%, and if I remember correctly, if you look on the fire departments, then look at 60. So 60% here. Those two, that's the general fund, public safety, those two combined is 72% of the general fund. So it's a combination of the fire department, general fund, and the police department, general fund is 72% of the total general fund for the city.
Okay.
So,
You're talking
I
dollars,
said, yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
Dollars.
sat there and was trying to add 64 and 60 and going, okay, so. The way I understood it, at least in my head, was that on a pie chart like that for each department, I would see general fund 72% on that pie chart.
Yeah, if I did a pie chart of 100% of just general fund with fire and police, it would show 72%.
Okay.
What we did, we took the other funding sources and put it together. Here's your 100% of your pie. And as you, the formula in the background, as you separate the amounts, that's where you get those numbers. But it is 72%. And I could assure you next time what we'll do is at the beginning during the city manager presentation, we'll put a pie chart that shows your general fund. That gives you the totality. And as we split up and talk about in each department, you'll see the percentage of all the funds that we receive and what we spend those funds on.
That's great, because
That'll help.
I bit my tongue today because I was gonna stop you and just ask you that question straight off the bat. Because if it wasn't 72%, I was my typical self. I was just gonna say, why are we here?
so if I may, as we work through budget, one of the first things that I have to do is figure out through input from different, all the different departments, from HDL consultants that we work with for projections. And I determine what our total general fund revenues are, not excluding Measure U, because that's a separate, even though it is general fund, I have to treat it separate. So I come up with the whole amount, which is $48.3 million. I say, okay, what is 72% of that? $34.8 million. And then I tell them 72% of the general fund is 34.8. Chief Poost, you get 23.2 million, which is what his first line there is. Chief Sell, you get 11.6 million. And then they know this is how much I have to work with to put their budgets together. And fortunately, our projections are a lot higher than they were last year. It's, I think, at least a 5% increase over last year. So where they originally thought that they were not going to be able to add those positions because the general fund is projected to do so well, they were able to add positions on the general fund side. And then they saw increases on the Measure U side as well. So we went from 13.2 million after the mid-year amended budget for this year to 15 million. So that's more than a 10% increase on the Measure U side. And so again, they get their 2/3, 1/3, so 10 million and 5 million. And they get those numbers at the beginning, and then they use that to build their budgets and what their needs are.
That's all I was missing was.
You know, that's a great
Pie
question,
chart.
and I didn't think about that. I think it's as better explained if we did a pie chart showing that the whole general fund, that was 44. The general fund for public safety is $34,818,900.
And then start
That would
dividing it
have
from
been
there.
Yeah, and that way you see out of
Yeah.
that 72,
Yeah.
what goes where. So
Yeah.
I'll make sure that that's on our next meeting. But hopefully, I think maybe mid-year we could do another meeting or prior to, just to give you updates where we're at, because I think it's important also to get feedback from all of you. And that's why the Measure U Oversight Committee is here. So, every quarter, every 4 months, if that's doable, I think we could probably. plan
Sounds
that.
like you'll be acting city manager for a while. Huh?
Oh, well, this is my thought, what I'll explain these are questions that you bring to me.
Yeah, no, I
obviously.
think it's great. I'm wondering though, I might be way behind the times, but what happened to the city manager?
I don't think we can
We,
discuss.
yeah, we
that.
gotta stick to the staff report
Oh.
discussion.
Got it, okay.
I'll tell you
Okay.
later. Okay, all right.
I don't have inside information, obviously.
One of the other things that I would like to share with the committee is that the city, just like police and fire have their strategic plan action items, all departments do. And one of finances was to bring forward a digital budget book. And we did that this year. It was presented to council, the preliminary at the last council meeting. So if you go through the city's website under departments and finance and then financial information, there's a link there to the digital budget book. There's also a PDF version of it. But the digital budget book, you can look at all of our revenues and you can look at what the totality of the general fund revenues are, what that 72% is, and then go, there's drop downs at the bottom. So go to departments, find fire, find police, and you'll find that their amounts are in there, but their expenditures are within their 72%.
I did see your presentation, but I didn't know it was actually up and running.
It is, there's a
Okay.
preliminary one. We're hoping to take the proposed budget for adoption on June 14th.
Oh,
And the digital budget book is so user friendly. You don't have to scroll
Very.
200 pages to get somewhere. You just could click, find things, move around.
If you don't care about finances, budget, you don't have to, you can just go straight to public safety or wherever, whatever you're interested in looking at.
okay, good. I'm happy. Are there any more questions regarding this? I guess we need to make a motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
No more questions, then do we have a motion to provide input to the city council via a letter that the city would draft for us? That the committee has reviewed the proposed expenditures for enhancing public safety expenditures for fiscal year 22-23 for both police and fire, and believe that they comply with resolutions 4703, 4731, and ordinance 1918, and that we support adding additional safety personnel as needed. Or something like that.
Yeah.
That was good. I can't repeat that.
I don't think I can make that motion, but
I'll make the motion.
You can make that motion.
I can make that motion?
Yes, you can.
Okay, then I move.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call motion by Chairwoman Cosmo, second by Committee Member Chenault. Going down the line, Committee Member Darren,
Yes.
Committee Member Clark,
Yes.
Committee Member Tamez,
Yes.
Committee Member Chenault,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cosmo.
Yes,
That motion passes 5-0.
and everyone wasn't here and we weren't having a meeting yet, but do you want to make the announcement about Sarah, or is that?
Yeah,
That's good.
I mean,
This time.
yeah, skipping ahead here, I did receive a correspondence from Vice Chair Sarah Cortez de Pavon, and she stated that she will be resigning the committee due to obligations with her school. And so there's a schedule conflict. So she apologizes, but will no longer be on the committee. And I just received that correspondence maybe 20 minutes before the meeting. That's my only staff announcement. Otherwise, if there's any other committee member comments or staff member comments.
Do you need 2 signatures for the letter?
Well, my question was, do we need to put that on a future agenda to elect we can't do it today, right? It's
It's,
just not on the agenda?
it could be placed on the next
Okay.
regular meeting agenda. Yeah,
Okay.
Mhm.
To elect a vice
a vice
The
chair,
vice chair.
correct.
and,
So a single signature on the letter that we just talked about today is okay?
You could designate someone to, you could add that as part of your motion. As long as the second.
who seconded it?
agrees.
I was the one this time, yeah. Or this last time I signed, because you appointed, you made the motion.
Whoever, I mean, I made the motion, so
Yeah, we could say as amended to include committee member Chenault to sign on the letter as well. And if everyone's okay with that,
I don't
we'll
know.
go by consensus.
Okay.
And this is a question, I don't know if it's for a future, I guess it is for a future, but appointment, now we need 2 members.
Yes.
We only have 5,
Actually, 3, because one never got filled,
right? Well, that one,
and then
no, there's 5 of us.
Just
Oh.
two.
there's two.
Yeah, just two.
So I don't know how that goes. Is that something for the council? Or not
So-
for us, right?
So just to shed a little light, yes, the city attorney's been working with the city council on the city council protocols. And so there's been a little bit of a delay in regards to the process of appointing new commissioners. So with that said, the city clerk's office has solicited applications through advertising in the press enterprise
Okay,
and through social media. So we have received applications and we are now in the process of basically getting with council to see who they would like to appoint with the applications we received so far.
oh, good.
And so,
Are those applications specific or?
yes,
Because where I'm coming from with this question, my wife put in an application for planning. Got a call, got an interview. Then got a second call going, hey, would you be interested in other committees? So that's also happening?
absolutely. Yeah, that's
Okay.
possible. I always encourage everyone to fill out applications, the public, including the public, to, check the boxes for multiple boards, because when one person, gets filled in, sometimes other folks would like to participate in other boards and committees, so. And it's at the discretion of the council, of course, and when they appoint or make their selections. So that's pretty much it as far as the background, but I hope to see some new appointments in the upcoming council meetings, hopefully within the next couple months. That's
Okay,
my projection.
very good.
Mhm.
Okay, are there any other committee member comments? I guess is where we are. No? Okay, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by committee member Clark, second by committee member Temez, committee member Derwin,
Yes.
committee member Clark,
Yes.
committee member Temez.
Yes.
Committee member Chenault,
Yes.
Chairwoman Cosma,
Yes.
that motion passes to adjourn 5-2.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
And you
guys.
guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Good job on your.
You all did a great job. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So much more enjoyable this time, remember?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, nice. I forgot what.
Yeah, it would have been there at Hemet Junior High, junior eight
What is
high,
it?
yeah, Hemet Junior High.
High was back then. I mean, I don't know.
Well,